Coming up on show 771, Skoda are getting in on the electric car game, and the Enyaq IV. The electric will be the most powerful car they've ever made. Stick around and I'll tell you more. Plus on the show today, the Volkswagen design boss says it's wrong not to build EVs on dedicated platforms. The Fiat boss is excited about the all-electric Fiat 500. Elon Musk says the Roadster will be delayed, and Nissan in Europe are adding a new electric van to their range. Well, new-ish. I'll give you the details on those stories today. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. This is what happened on Thursday, 7th of May. My name is Martyn Lee, and I go through every EV story, so you don't have to. And thank you for your patience as I have gradually got back up to date with the show after spending some family time and not being able to get a show out every single day recently. Okay, let's kick off then, and this is the lead story today. It's the Skoda Enyaq. I think that's how I pronounce it. Enyaq. Enyaq? Enyaq. Oh well, I'll go with Enyaq until somebody who knows better corrects me. The IV, which again is the same as the Skoda Citigo, which is the small little car called the IV. This is the company's EV that's going to be on the way very soon, and also the company's most powerful car. Well, the most powerful car they've ever made. So the pint-sized Citigo IV goes down in history as their first EV. But let's face it, it wasn't really their EV. It was kind of the same car as the Volkswagen E-Up and the Seat Me electric. This new car from Skoda, the Enyaq, whatever, will be their first model to be developed from the ground up as an electric vehicle. And of course, it's not entirely theirs because they are part of Volkswagen Group and they have the MEB platform that the ID.4 is going to be based on. And so that's where this car comes from. However, it won't be a competitor to the ID.4. This is Skoda's answer to the Tesla Model Y and the VW ID.4. Well, the Czech automaker is kicking off their campaign now by sharing images of prototypes. They're in camouflage, but you can certainly see the details and the shape of the car, the size of the car. It's very much ID.4, Model Y territory. According to Motor One, the Enyaq will be available with a choice of 3 battery sizes. Again, standard stuff with this platform from VW. There's going to be a 55 kilowatt hour pack. That'll get you 211 miles, 340 Ks. The base version is rear-wheel drive with a rear-mounted motor and 146 horsepower on that. Right, mid-range model. If you're going mid-range, you're going to bump up to the 62 kilowatt hour battery pack. That'll do you 242 miles. Personally, I think this might be a good seller. The middle range, 240 miles, that's 390 Ks, call it 400. Rear electric motor, 177 brake horsepower, and loads of power, loads of range. Won't be as expensive as the top of the range one. If you do want the longest range possible, though, you can get a rear-wheel drive variant with an 82 kilowatt hour battery pack. So this is the one that will do over 310 miles. That's over 500 Ks between charges, 201 horsepower on that. One motor still, rear-mounted electric motor. However, Skoda will be releasing the Enyaq to accommodate an all-wheel drive layout. So yeah, that's right, dual electric motors, front and rear, and 302 horsepower on this one. Effectively, a 302 horsepower EV, the most powerful production car that Skoda will have made. So they're going to badge it the RS. I've mentioned before that I used to have a Skoda Octavia VRS, and when Skoda make quick cars, they tend to do it quite well. 0 to 62 in 6 seconds and a top speed of 112, and I'll pop a link to Motor One in the show notes if you want to read more. The interesting thing about it is the VW Group's MEB platform, of which they'll be making 22 EVs in the next couple of years, across the group, of course. When you start to get into the likes of the Seat electric and the Skoda electric, you just get those slightly lower price points, not by too much, but a little bit more affordable, and that is where I'm really curious to see what the pricing is going to be for this one. Could I be tempted with that? I could be, actually. And staying with Volkswagen, VW's design chief Klaus Bischoff believes the freedom that's offered by making your own dedicated electric technology means it would have been the wrong decision to make vehicles with multiple powertrains rather than bespoke EVs like the ID.3, the 4, the 5. According to Autocar, the VW Group has their MEB platform. It's a dedicated electric platform, much like Tesla would do, for instance. An all-electric car maker like Tesla has a platform upon which their cars are built. And VW using this platform, this skateboard design, if you like, for a range of ID-branded vehicles which will sit alongside existing combustion-engined models. Sibling firms Audi, Seat, Skoda, all offering their own EVs built on the same platform as well. A quote here from Klaus, he says this, and I quote, "The new architecture that electric vehicles offer gives designers the chance to come up with an entirely new design approach. We're aiming for developing something that gives customers big advantages. A small footprint, a big interior, and a fully digital architecture. To keep an electric car in the traditional space would have been the wrong decision. There is more freedom with a bespoke EV because the car's architecture, volume and the proportions are different. With an internal combustion engine out of the game, you can really move the proportions and body styles and have more flexibility, particularly in terms of interior design." End quote. And that's interesting. VW very, very much of the opinion this is the only way to do it. Compare and contrast. I'll point you towards Mercedes-Benz. I'll point you towards BMW. Their EV plans are very much built on their internal combustion engine cars and models. And actually, in the case of those, BMW have talked about the beauty of having a factory that can make combustion cars, hybrid cars, plug-in hybrid cars, and full electric cars, all on the same production line. And they see that as a way of navigating the next 10 years as they move from fossils to electric. Because they say that they can dial up and dial down different powertrains according to what the customer wants in 1 year, in 2 years, in 5 years, without having to build whole new factories. That's their way of doing it. VW believe their way of doing it is the right way. Maybe both are correct. Maybe there hasn't got to be one winner. Maybe this isn't VHS and Betamax. I don't know. We'll see. But they're pretty certain that their way is the right way. Well, somebody else that would agree with VW is the Fiat boss. He's been revealing the thinking behind the brand new, all-electric and purpose-built 500. Olivier Francois is Fiat's brand president, and he's bullish about the new arrival of the Fiat 500, not least because it's only been possible through significant development. And early on, Fiat realised that just adapting the existing car to be pure electric wouldn't work how they wanted. They did that with the Fiat 500 the first time round, the compliance car that was sold in California and a few other places. They lost money on everyone they sold and didn't want to do it again. The Fiat 500's trademark focus on style and usability is all about, with electrification, making the most of that car and that style. And the extra battery capacity as well when you design it from the ground up. Olivier Francois says this, and I have a quote from him, and he said, I quote, "This is not a plan B. It is not a current platform that we've tweaked to accommodate just some batteries. It's all new. And this little car, once again, is totally relevant. This is our urban Tesla. The thing we know is that we have a successful nameplate. It's the leader in Europe. People love it. What we don't really know, what we have no visibility on, is the future demand for all electric vehicles. But we need to be ready. We need to know that the demand for sure will explode because the regulations in city centres," end quote. So there you go. That's interesting that they've actually busted out the T word there. Many existing automotive executives refuse to mention Tesla. However, very openly, he says, we are making an urban Tesla. We are making a small city car that is fit for purpose on the small European city streets upon which this car will be driven. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that. It does live in a really interesting space. I'm looking at you, Mini electric. I'm looking at you, Honda E as well. And it's not going to be cheap. I don't know. We should get UK pricing really soon, by the way. We should be getting UK pricing on the Fiat 500. We have had some, there's a story about a month ago maybe, and on outline pricing, it is not going to be at the bottom end of the markets. But if you want it and you like the style, and I really do, I really, really do. This wouldn't be the number one EV in our family. This wouldn't be the one that we have for long road trips and for eating up motorway miles, although of course it probably could. This is the one that if we're popping somewhere, I'd be chasing for the car keys to drive. I reckon this would put a big old smile on your face. All right, let's move on. Talk Nissan. The Nissan ENV200 XL Voltia is a conversion from the company, funnily enough, that's called Voltia. They're specialists from Slovakia, and they've been converting ENV200s for a while into a high-roof transporter. The body and the loading area have now been lengthened towards the rear. The roof behind the driver's cab is now higher, and the XL version of the ENV200, with 8 cubic meters, has loading space twice as big as the original one from Nissan, says the website Electri. Well, Voltia had already launched a conversion of the original 24 kilowatt-hour version, but now, with the bigger 40 kilowatt-hour battery that's in the Leaf, they're doing an even bigger version of the ENV200 van. According to Voltia, the vehicle has been optimized for delivery, and so far the Slovakians have distributed the model on their own and sold it to a French parcel service, Chronopost, and the British logistics company Newt, and it will be available in all European markets from now on, I believe. That's great news. Moving on to Elon and some Roadster news. Elon went on to the Joe Rogan podcast and said that he said today that the company's planned Roadster version 2, next-gen Roadster, whatever you want to call it, or just Roadster, will be taking a back seat in terms of their timeline and their product roadmap, because they've got other vehicle models they're going to get to first, which does put the Roadster further back than we thought. I remember Elon saying on Ryan McCaffrey's Ride the Lightning podcast, it was dessert. He always viewed it as dessert. It was always going to be the thing they eventually got round to. When Joe Rogan asked when he could buy himself a Roadster, Elon responded that he couldn't provide a date, but that other initiatives, like the Model Y and the Gigafactory Berlin, were the priorities. And we've got to get the meat and potatoes and greens and stuff first, he says, further taking on that Roadster being the dessert idea. Elon said that Tesla will make the Cybertruck first before they even start work on the Roadster. Tesla announced the Roadster back in 2017. They said it would be faster than any other street-legal production car in the world, and he said that it will be a halo car, not just for electric cars, but for all cars, 0 to 61.9 seconds, and that's things like the revised version of the Model S, for instance, with the new motors. Is it still going to be a 3-motor design? Did that get cancelled? But certainly by the end of 2020, we'll have a new Model S, a totally redesigned Model S by the end of this year. And that means that Roadster is being pushed back. If you're interested, by the way, the Joe Rogan podcast is well over 2 hours long. His shows always are. But Elon doesn't really talk cars. He talks artificial intelligence and lots of stuff. But anyway, if you're interested in the car stuff, go to 1 hour 51. If you're going to find Joe Rogan on the podcast or YouTube, just go forward to 1 hour 51. It talks about the Tesla Roadster, the Cybertruck being released, and the future of Tesla as well. Otherwise, you'll be waiting a rather long time to get to it. But what do people who work at Tesla think about Elon's recent activity on Twitter, even going on Twitter to say he thought the stock price, the value of Tesla was overpriced? Of course, that day the stock price fell between 9 and 10%, and then recovered, and then went up some more, so clearly it hasn't hurt the company. There's an anonymous professional network, and it's called Blind. They have 3.5 million verified users on their website, and they asked 50 Tesla employees a couple of questions. Okay, it's a small sample size, but still. They asked 50 verified Tesla employees. 1, how do you think Elon's Twitter activity is affecting the company? And 2, is he a genius, or an internet troll? Key findings of the survey were that about 54% of respondents believe that his Twitter activity actually harms the company. Over half of Tesla employees surveyed found that what he's doing these days on Twitter is harming the company. 26% said he's a genius. 10% said he's misunderstood. The same again said he's an internet troll. And almost half said he's a combination of all three. It's worth remembering, by the way, that kind of Silicon Valley tech employees often have compensation linked very closely to company value and stock price. I know lots of people do have compensation packages done that way, but particularly in this kind of high-tech world. So when the boss goes on Twitter to talk about the company and the share price does go down, and like I say, the stock price has since recovered and gone even higher than when he first tweeted, It does raise the question, if you work for the company and the money that you're going to be taking home is directly affected by what the boss is tweeting, I can see how that would be a bit frustrating. Moving on, and congratulations to the German market. Germany saw their car market dip in April, but not by as much as other countries, which is amazing, really. It doesn't look good for the industry when something is down 61% in a month, but other countries have fared much, much worse, like France and the UK. Market share of EVs was actually, plug-in vehicles, about static in Germany. We saw in the UK it was up at 30%. It was abnormal. Don't get excited. It was up at about a third of all registrations were EVs. Whereas in Germany, it was 8.5% of passenger vehicles. However, Dr. Max Holland for Clean Technica says that while we don't have the April data for EV models, we do now have the breakdown for March. Model 3, way out in front, 2,034 were sold in March. E-Golf, the Germans are still loving their E-Golfs, 1,500. Love their Zoes, about 1,000 of those were sold, and e-trons, 721. And finishing off with a bit of solar news, because I know that many people that listen to this show are interested, not just in EVs, but how we power them as well. Well, a 2 gigawatt project in Abu Dhabi, the world's biggest single-site solar installation, is now expected to deliver electricity at the world's lowest prices for electricity generation. That is 1 cent per kilowatt hour. Actually, 1.35 cents, if I'm being specific. 1.35 cents per kilowatt hour when it goes into service in a couple of years' time, says the website energycentral.com. Well, the bid to the Abu Dhabi Power Corporation came from EDF, Electricité de France, and a Chinese partner as well. Green Tech Media notes the Gulf states have had more than their fair share of record low solar prices lately, with a project in Dubai offering power at 1.7 cents per kilowatt hour last November. Qatar, led by the French giant Total and a Japanese conglomerate, came in at 1.6 cents back in January, and 3 months later the record is once again broken and it goes to the United Arab Emirates for this one. So it just goes to prove that when you drive an EV, the way it's powered, especially in some particularly sunny climates, means that you are almost filling your car up for free. Moving on, question of the week returns on Sunday, 10th of May, because, like I say, I'm catching up this week, so it's taking a break. But you can email me about anything on the show. The email address is hello@evnewsdaily.com, or leave a comment on the YouTube show. Well, thank you as always to everyone who supports this show, whether it's by listening, by sharing, by telling people about it, by supporting on Patreon, which is a website where you can support creators, patreon.com/EVNewsDaily, funnily enough. If you want to get in on the action, there are some premium partners to thank: Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Brightsmith Group for Clean Tech Talent, Porsche of the Village, Cincinnati, and Audi of Cincinnati East. If you can do me a little favour, and if you can ever leave a review on Apple Podcasts, it makes a really big difference to help grow the show, because other people get to see what you've written about it. Either a star rating or a few words. Really, really help me out. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.